started it. So, anyway, to go back to how this all links together to this morning, right? Is I went to go look at Freedom Plaza to go look and see if there was anything that I could pick up directly from it. And so I actually stayed right over here is where my hotel was. And something interesting happened there, but we'll get back to that. So when I look over the White House, when you look, you notice that it is shaped like the Ankh, right? With the circle on the top and the towers, the two towers, and you could essentially put a cross on it between those two buildings that are identical, and everything is mirrored on both sides, right? So here I show what I'm seeing, which is the two towers, the sun over it, and it essentially becomes a man. That's his head, that's his body, that's his two arms and his legs going out, right? So now, if you go, oh, and I have to switch. So now if you go and you zoom out from there, what is it that we see? And we see, well, that same man, the head there, like an angel, right? Looking like an angel with the wings, but underneath it, there is a five-pointed star in a square or a triangle, to be more exact. And so now I said to myself, wait a second. This all points up and down, right? It's directional, right? So now, if I were to go like this, and let's see where I put that, right? And where it points to is Norfolk, Virginia, and Kill Devil Hills and Nag's Head. This is where most of the ships have gone down along the East Coast. Most of them, right? Most of the shipwrecks are right here. Now, here's the thing is if we, and let me see if I have it. Yep. So if we extend it out, right, that line directly south in how it's facing right to its head, it goes through Norfolk, Virginia, skims over the coast of North Carolina, Kill Devil Hills, where the first flight happened, and then it goes over um, St. Augustine, Cape Canaveral, which includes some interesting things you'll see in a second, right over Havana into the triangle. This is the triangle, right? So now, when you look here, it goes right over Lake Okeechobee, Melbourne, Cape Canaveral, Tudisville. You know what Titus is? The Arch of Titus. Do you know what happened in 66 AD? Who sacked the temple and brought all the artifacts back to Rome? Built an arch there for it, memorializing him. St. Augustine, right here, Augustus Caesar, right? And so now, in addition to that, and I'm going to pull all this down for a second. Now, in addition to that, this morning, these people by the name of Old World Florida is teamed up with a guy named Juan on Juan, and they're doing this exact dig that I happen to be in right now. And hold on one second. Oh. And so what they are pointing to is the same exact thing I'm pointing to. And what I went on to X, and other people happen to be talking about a similar topic. And one of the comments underneath it, just before I'm coming on with you, says that I see these pictures of a shipwreck that looks like maybe I can show it. Hold on. Oh, you know what? I left my phone inside. Well, it looks like basically a giant underwater, and they're saying that it is where they think Atlantis was, where somebody thinks Atlantis was in this old world in the Gulf of Mexico off the west coast of Cuba. And that is directly where this line is going of, and I want you guys to recognize it, is the rest of my research shows that all of our forefathers were not only Freemasons, but illuminated Freemasons. And they built Washington, D.C., Lafayette, and La Fontaine Square. The French architects built Washington, D.C. And so all this stuff has symbolism from them. And, unfortunately, what my research shows is that everything is broken, right? Because these people who we all have this imagination that they were Jesus believing Christians who had a direct relationship with God. No, 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 no. What I just showed you there, let me take you back so you see it, is that they have erected an angel. Who is that angel? The fallen angel. Who is that? And that is, take a look. What does it look like to you when you look at this? Does it, you, here's the important part. So yesterday, what was my most amazing dig yesterday? It was that they announced yesterday, and I'll prove it to you, that they found Captain Cook's ship off the coast of New Hampshire. This is yesterday's dig. Hold on. You see this screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, hold on. Right here. All right. So yesterday, I found, hold on, I gotta find the original one. Oh, actually, I went too far. So yesterday, I found that, and so I emailed them because this group called so they're a research group based on marine history, right? And geology. So they'll go to shipwrecks and they'll do the research on it to find out where it came from, right? So yesterday in the news, supposedly the HMS Endeavour, which was the ship that Captain James Cook, my original dig here in this whole entire thing, after I came to Truth Social, was about Captain James Cook and what was hidden within his diary. And that was what they were looking for. Guess what they were actually looking for? They said that They said that the Spanish king had paid to build a ship and send him 3 times over 10 years to the South Pacific looking for land in Antarctica. And he said he never found it. He always thought he saw it because he saw clouds and birds, but there was never a place to go. That was his story on paper. But in actuality, lots of other things happened. But the most important thing was the crown had him looking for the Venus rising, which is the 7 planetary alignment with Venus. And so what he was searching for was the perfect place at a very specific time on the summer solstice to view the alignment of the planets, right? And and so what I'm saying to you is that these people yesterday in New Hampshire had an argument where one of the parties decided to release that it is the true HMS, um uh what is it called, his ship, and the real researchers did not agree to it. It says it at the bottom of the article yesterday that I just happened to run into on the day it comes out. Praise Jesus. And so what I'm saying to you is we have people here on this earth who are plotting and colluding to manipulate us to believe a certain path about Christianity because they are hiding where Jesus is. They're hiding at the highest places among us, and they are in full exposure when you get within the true Spirit of God and believe that He has delivered us and they have no dominion. And so this all started for me, and I'll take this back to you guys now and how we're talking. This all started for me because 2 weeks before January 6th, I told your wife that I was, as a Jew for my full life at 50, decided that I needed to read Genesis for the first time, really, in its entirety. And when I did, I saw instantly, as soon as I read it, because I was an algorithmic developer, I think in data, and I saw without anybody telling me that 2 people were treated differently, and that was the guy who my family always told me was going to walk in the door, Elijah, and the other guy was Enoch. And so those 2 guys were taken as opposed to everybody else died. And so what does that say? Who else was taken was Jesus. And so I didn't know this yet, right? I didn't understand that connection yet because it's not my religion. I did marry a Catholic who was not practicing at the time. And so of course the next thing you're told to do is to read Enoch because obviously you know about a bit about Judaism, but now you need to know about Enoch. So I read Enoch and I have a vision of the place I've been in America. I took my whole family on a trip 10 years ago to Jackson Hole and the Grand Tetons. And as I'm reading this thing and it's describing the view of God's throne where the waters split and Eden, and I recognize it. It's right there. And I walked through it, all of it. I just did it with my family 10 years ago. And it just so happens that I had a family breakup in the most unusual way after that portion of my life, where not only did I lose an entire lifetime career on Wall Street by choice, but I lost my whole family by choice outside of my wife and my kids. And something drove that wedge that I couldn't understand. But this was it, essentially, is that apparently it's exposed that somehow my family is connected in a way in the bloodlines of which I don't understand truly what it is, but it's given me the ability to find the Messiah, being Jesus Christ, and being able to see it from a perspective that Christians are not able to see it, in particular Catholics, because they have been deceived by trickery from the Council of Nicaea setup, because um because have fun, because the Romans realized when Pontius Pilate had to make that call to allow it to happen, the forces, it was inevitable. It was happening, right? God wanted it to happen, and it was happening. And the thing was that 3 days later, when they were guarding that and he disappeared, they said to themselves, in particular Pontius and all the other, you know, Roman legionnaires, oh, oh boy, what did we do? You know what I mean? The leaders, the Caesars, they said, wait a second, what did we do? It's obvious that he was the one. And now they go through the next, call it 33 to 66 AD. Think of those numbers, right? And they wind up over those years, the growth of the people making the direct connection because they realized this, right? They had to combat it. So what did they do? They sack the temple, they steal the artifacts, they use the magic of Jesus, right? To create this black magic Jezebel uh, uh, religion. The Babylonians eh, stole this. The historical Babylonians steal this magic, right? And they take it via via I want you to think how this happened, right? You had the zealots who were us. We were the ones who were changing, who were going to change the world. And then you had these very specific people, the Sicario, who came in and were slitting the throats of the Sadducees, all the rich people who were controlling the narrative and the 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 Levites, right? The Levites had all gotten in bed with they were all together, like just like it is today, you know? And so what happens is now they're going to have, even though they took everything, they're really going to have a revolt, right? So for the next 250 years, they have this realization that it's just growing and growing. So what do? They decide that they're going to become Christians, and they create Catholicism in order to take back control. And the Roman emperor says to everybody, all my legionnaires, we've now taken over all of Europe, all of Africa, all of Western Asia, and now you are all going to become Christians. If you don't become Christians, I'm going to kill you. You're all pagans. Don't worry about it. You're just going to blend in now, and you're a part of it. If you don't believe it, it's okay. This is your face now. If you don't take this face, you're done. And then, if you look at history, the same thing happened with the Muslims. They did the same exact thing, right? And so, um, you know, Constantinople, and I could just go on and on. So the thing of this is we are being deceived from within, from the Trojan horse within, and it attacks where we are strongest in the church. Period. So now, finally you take this to Enoch and the end of the book. It speaks of the portals and how it works with time, right? And that these portals become available at different places at different times of the year, right? So these witches are chasing Enochian portals, the mirrored version of Enoch, because there's two Enochs and two Lamechs, and they are chasing Venus rising, aka Lucifer, and they're doing this via various ways, but in Captain Cook's case, they were hiding that they were looking for the perfect spot, and they found it in Marquesas to build a platform hidden to view this exact moment on the solstice in like 1774. I'm going to say something like that. So this is all a hidden mimicking to attain the very same exact things. They all claim to follow the Ten Commandments, want the Bible, pushing the conquistadors were actually coming here saying that they were pushing Christ, but no, they were converting the natives to paganism, because the original natives that we say were here were actually connecting with Jesus. They just didn't call him Jesus yet. And I can prove that because the Aztec god was named Quetzalcoatl, and his people believed a red dirt god from the north taught him what made them a successful society, the most successful, the most rapidly successful society ever, like grew up the Aztecs to be powerful, right? They did it because they got agriculture and they got metallurgy. From where? They were making gold. Why did the conquistadors say that they wanted the gold of the... No. It was that all these people were given the same ancient alchemy, metallurgy, which is the mirror for one another from before that time, from the people called the Moors at the minimum. And in actuality, I really think it goes back to a mirroring here biblically. And Grand Teton is the throne of Jesus, and the two mountains on the side of him are waiting for his apostles to come and take seat on. And meanwhile, the demons are thinking Lucifer and Ahriman are going to take those seats, who lie in the valleys on each side. That's what God tells me anyway. Are you guys getting all these connections that I'm making? Because it's hard for people to, it's a lot of data and you're missing sort of a lot of what I found, but am I putting it together enough with how you guys are as a husband and wife are um, within your own spirit, right? With Jesus, are you are you hearing anything about what I'm saying in your heart?
Well, you have a lot of historical um, data. We've noticed before. We've seen the overview, aerial view of Washington D.C., and we've seen some of the same imagery and how, like, there's an owl figure to that whole area as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff you just added, um, it's nothing that we've really heard in the sense that you just related it. We're familiar with Captain Cook in that, he was exploring the Southern Pacific, and I guess part of that was he was supposed to be circumnavigating Antarctica, but from what I understand, it took 3 years, and he never got anywhere where he found an inlet into it.
That
And,
first voyage, correct?
and if it's as described, you would think he would have gone around it at that point. So there's something different about the way they describe the Southern Hemisphere that doesn't.
You ready for this? What I found long ago with one of my, great partners who passed. Um, her name was Lori. She was amazing. But what we found, along with this dig on Captain Cook, and it gets a lot deeper, is that, I noticed patterns in words and in numbers, but only in words because of the math of it, right? And that's just how my mind thinks. And when I saw the maps that he was writing on the circumnavigation, right? All these maps during that time period and before don't say the South Seas. They aren't written in English. They're written in Spanish. They're written in Italian. And they're written in Latin. And what they say is Sur de Mar. That is South Sea, not the South Seas. It's South Sea, meaning one, singular.
It all connects. Yeah, it all connects.
Yep. It's one.
And
There's probably, in my opinion, there is some sort of firmament dome over us. I don't believe we're ever going to really know that stuff, right? So I've decided not to focus on it any longer. That being said, the Bible says it. So why am I going to, if nothing is going to break me from the Bibles, because I believe them all, and I believe that God changed them because it exposes the lies. It's not the other way around, right? So the people out here who are trying to break the Bible right now, to me, are that Jezebel spirit who they have been working. When I tell you guys, there's something that I did here in all this at J6 that makes me the target, right, of these people. And when I tell you they have been after me to try and get me to transcend Jesus, the effort has been phenomenal. It's like so unmistakable, the grift upon me, right? That it's so obvious what to do for me. You get it?
I'm not following necessarily what you mean by to transcend Jesus. They're trying to get you to
Okay.
transcend Jesus.
there is a New Age religion of Christianity in America in particular that believes in a seven mountain prophecy, and they believe all the exact same things as we are supposed to believe, except for one thing. They don't believe in one God. They're Hellenic. They believe in more than one. They have manipulated the Trinity. When Arius figured out the subtle difference between the Trinity and his version of the Trinity, that was the moment that eventually the powers that be today needed to take the power of what Arius had actually uncovered, the manipulation being uncovered, that led to Nazism. And the reason for Nazism, meaning they understood that they needed to harness the power of that magical thing that they think that they can do. And these magicians are so inept at what they do. Like they think they control the world, right? They actually do, but they only control it because we allow it. We are literally, we're giving up our free will to them while we're sitting here yelling freedom and wearing Phrygian caps. And it sounds so ridiculous to somebody that hasn't studied it, but go look up 1776 and the Phrygian cap, the Liberty cap. It is literally, over history, they have mocked us as clowns, as actual clowns, and manipulated and used us to pretend to run in the spirit, and it's really almost a disaster of epic proportions of what they have done to manipulate Christians to make them. Now, the final thing here is they're having Christians turn and go after Jews, Israel, because once they get Israel, they're going to rebuild the third temple, okay? And then they're going to raise the Antichrist. It's the trick. They want the same exact things we want, because in the end, their real plan is to do the switcheroo. And that's not going to happen, right? But it sure is looking like it. It's really hard to bring it all together for people, but I think without getting all the pieces, this recording is sort of enough to sort of get Christians who are truly making that connection directly, with the Holy Spirit. That's how we get there, that when you start to look at all of the symbolism, we will know them from the symbolism. It's been telling us that all along. They must tell us that is the hidden hand. That is the grift going on here. That is the Enochian magic. It's the word magic, abracadabra. So the way through it is to truly believe the Bible and our independent connection with him, and that we don't need some priest to tell us and push us down by our head to the floor and tremble on the ground in order to make that connection. That is not necessary. Like Not that some of it isn't real, but I just, this has been trying to be pulled on me, a New Yorker who was a Jew who is now a believer in Christ, holy. They've been trying to pull this grift on me, normal people. It's like the weirdest thing. Christians, you know? So it's apparent to me. It's apparent to me what the answer is. It's like all we have to do is just keep on pushing it. Pushing it. They have no dominion. They do not have the answers. If you just go and read all of the actual history and not just the surface of what they're telling us, their own words of all of these people, every single one of them. If you go back and look at and read the anti-federalist papers, it tells you, even them, they were infiltrated. Alexander Hamilton. I mean, it's absolutely insane, but we are infiltrated with Enochian magic. And the way God told me was to show me the book of Enoch, because it's the inversion of what was good, because Enoch is Noah's great grandfather. You know what I mean? He's obviously not bad. He's good. But the other, Enosh and Lamech, is the inversion of that. You get it? So who are we? Is the question. Who carves? Who carves? Let me ask you this: if the Blackfoot Hills are one of the original tribes' land because of the Blackfoot Indians, let's just say that were the case, right? And I'm not saying whether it is or not, but what kind of people who are Freemasons, 100%, and then they're illuminated Freemasons who believe in Providence, would put all of their faces carved in the rock stone on sacred ground? What would a godly people do that who believe in no idols? Or would some other type of people? I mean, I nobody loved George Washington more than me. However, what kind of spirit would have such a thing? I don't know. You tell me. It's sad. It's really sad. But here's the thing: is once we break that understanding of who we really are, then we're a bunch of people that cares about our heritage, where our heritage were I'm going to tell you what Captain Cook was doing. He was going around sleeping with the women of Polynesia who were purposefully doing it Jezebels. They were trading in liquor. They were all drinking liquor and doing that, and the locals were stealing their stuff, and then things were happening and they were killing them, and people were getting lashed from Cook. If you go read it, that's what was happening. So, like, we are under a delusion written by the very demons who won that we are good. I literally caught George Washington, get this, cutting a deal for the heads of the rebels. The Sons of Liberty all died based upon the Asgill affair. They all died. And so, if everyone knew all this real history, I mean, it's all there for the taking, except nobody's been taught all these things. Nobody's been taught that the um, the Triangle Shirt Factory fire was lit on purpose by Freemason Jews who were actually Jesuits, Sephardic Jesuits, who burned their factory after putting chains on the doors from the outside with some 90 Jewish girls in it, all to start the labor movement. But we don't know that. We don't know that. We don't know that the London fire was set to be a distraction to stop the Black Plague. Disappeared the day the London fire started in 1666. Of course, the Black Plague disappeared. But what's going on? And call me crazy. I'm just seeing things, just noticing patterns.
No, it's very interesting, actually. You know, it's stuff that I've never looked into in that depth in those areas. I can only touch on this little bit and this little. I can make connections to what you're saying, but I don't have the body of knowledge of what you read to get to the point you are with it. Yeah.
5 years since January 6th. Every day, every night, I've been up starting early. I go to bed early and I start early before everybody else is up. And, but there's been a lot of people to help. And the funny thing about this, guys, is that the way in which this has worked the best is when I found other people within the spirit to reflect with. I call it, funny enough, with how these bad people are and the symbolism they use, I call it triangulation, because what they would call it is telepathy. And if I'm being honest, at the beginning of this, we absolutely tested and proved that what they call telepathy exists. And it's not telepathy. I'm coming right now. Okay. We're going to the beach. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna, if you guys want, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this after thinking about it. So maybe, another day this week, we can just revisit it after you check it to the Bible, because that's what you need to do is, from what I've said to you about my experience, and there's a lot more to tell about how I became a Christian and everything, because it's crazy. And, maybe you guys can reflect back from me its impact, what I've told you today, on you guys and your journey. You know what I mean? So maybe we give it a couple of days.
Sure.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in knowing some of the sources that you had, or some of the things you touched on today. Maybe you can.
I can make it really easy. If you go to the National Archives online, so a guy by the name of Kash Patel, do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Was commissioned before, on the first term of the Trump administration, to put the National Archives online. And what it's afforded me in this journey, so no matter what you think of Q, because I'm in a place where I'm with Jesus, right? However, that being said, Jesus uses people. And Kash Patel put this online, and by the blessings of Jesus, he did that, because if he didn't, none of what I'm telling you I would have found. None of it. You can look it all up, and what I would suggest is keyword search from this stuff, and you will find writings from our forefathers that will make you understand what I'm telling you about providence. The Puritans were not what you think they were. It was a manipulation of some people who really believed in Christ. It was. They were killing people that didn't believe like them. I mean, how much more do we need to know? Do you know what I mean? It's not that hard to figure out.
It's a
And
familiar, it's a familiar story.
You know, so and it's not just them. That's the hard part about this, is that like everybody gets offended because then I'm talking about their ancestors. You know what I mean? Whatever group it is, because when I talk about the Jews, I'm talking about mine, right? And I'll end this by saying that my ancestry is from a place called Wallachia. Look it up, and you'll understand there's only two reasons why I'm being fed this data with that connection back to my family. And it's because I'm either part of the good or part of the bad, and God is using me. You know what I mean? For whatever his purpose. We know what it is. It's to bring people back. But, I don't know. People aren't seeing it. They're just falling for the next thing. And it's been a hard thing to come to realize that, not everybody is going to make it.
Right.
So, guys, I wish I had more time to hear from you guys, because I spoke a lot, and there's a lot for you guys to unpackage. I'm gonna send you this recording so you can watch it back over if you want. You can use it however you want, really. I'm okay with that. But maybe we get back together in a few days, if you don't mind, and just reflect on what I said, and look at, if that's what you do, look at the Bible for guidance. You know what I mean? That's what I'd suggest.
That's a primary focus. Pretty much everything scriptural.
And I'm not as good as most Christians with that, but that's the sick part of this, is that I find things Christians have never found, and I'm going to show you something. You go read something, because this is what the demons are doing, and it connects to Cook. Ready? And we're going to end it. I'm going to drop off after this. Love you guys.
Right.
But look up Jeremiah. It's either 22:30 or 30:22. And what it says is that basically what it says is they are looking to God says, Jesus says to them, if you can dislodge the celestial bodies from their paths, I will no longer hold my covenant to Abraham, to David. And so my take on it is these demons are using that very passage to wrestle the birthright away from David and bring it back to, the fallen. I think that's what we're dealing with in the physical plane.
You have a recording on that up, don't you? Like a half-hour recording?
This whole thing, 49 minutes? Yes, and I do. And I have also look up John 6:66. Pretty interesting. So I'm going to send this to you right now in an email as we get off, okay? It'll give you a link. And then you tell me when you guys want to get back together.
Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. So nice to meet you guys. I wish I gave you guys more time to speak. I'm like so verbose. It's crazy.
No, you needed to talk today, and that's totally fine. So we'll talk again.
It's awesome. Amazing. It's so nice to meet you both.
You too. Now go have fun with the family.
Yep, you too. Have a great day. Good Saturday.
Thank you.
Sabbath. It's Sabbath into Sabbath. We get, we make it what we want. This is, I think my Sabbath, I'm not sure I celebrate on Sundays, but I think my Sabbath is from sundown tonight to sundown tomorrow, to be honest.
We're going to have to talk about that sometime.
Talk to you later.
We got you by a day. We're from Friday. We keep Friday sunset to Saturday sunset.
Do you? And so that's what I would have grown up with.
Yeah.
And what's funny is Catholics are Sunday, and I have a feeling that it is sundown on Saturday to sundown on Sunday. I have a feeling. I don't know, but I think
that would be the biblical first day of the week,
right?
From sunset Saturday, the seventh day, to sunset Sunday.
She's gonna kill me. She's gonna kill me if I don't go.
I started out as a Catholic youth in my early days.
Awesome.
All right.
Don't get killed. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.